And the Mariners are going to be well represented. I mean, 4 players in the All-Star game plus Julio, who gave up his spot for Randy. Team with 5 players in the All-Star game. That's a good team, right? I mean, like, if you've got 5 of your 26 guys, 20% of your team's an All-Star?
And they're not all pitchers.
No, only a couple of them are pitchers. So, like,
That's part of the problem, Jason.
So the Mariners are good, right? You feel confident in saying that?
No.
Oh.
No, absolutely
Why not?
No, they're so far from actually being good. But you know what? You know what's going around in Major League Baseball right now is there's a lot of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Mediocrity in baseball is what they want. They want a bunch of teams that are just right there. So, and the problem with that is that makes the trade deadline tough, right? Everybody thinks they're in it. How many teams are actually just automatic? You look at those numbers and you're like, okay, they're selling. Maybe 6 teams right now. But with Seattle, they obviously should be better. If they were getting the performance, the foundation of this baseball team is that rotation. They have not performed up to par, and for a reason. You know, Bryce Miller's obviously hurt. Logan Gilbert went through his thing, but there have been some inconsistencies there. Gilbert, since he's been back, Kirby a little bit up and down. Castillo, this year hasn't been clean and sharp, and there's a little bit of decline going on there, at least statistically. And obviously that 5th spot with Miller out, they're not getting the performance they've been getting in the past. To me, that's the biggest difference, because the offense is a little better. It certainly is a little better, and it's not just Cal Raleigh. Julio better the first 3-4 months of the season than he was a year ago. Randy Rosarina, obviously, wasn't even on a team last year until August. To me, it's this balance of mediocrity, rotation, lineup, bullpen, and it's probably all 3 of those spots they have to consider making some moves, at the deadline.
It's funny you say mediocrity, and I get it. I'm not sure it's the wrong word. I also watch them, though, and they hardly ever look mediocre. It's, to me, more the inconsistency that when played out over 162, or in this case 90-something, makes it kind of get to mediocrity, because at times all 3, the bullpen, the rotation, and the lineup look much, much better than mediocre. They look great. And there are other times where they look like a train wreck. It's weird. Even though they're kind of end up on, all right, I'll use the word mediocre, they almost never feel mediocre at the time.
The rotation for me kind of has. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. Obviously, you had the injuries that you had, and just always go back to the offseason, and thank goodness they did not trade Luis Castillo. But we haven't seen, Brian Wu has done great things, but I would still like to see him get deeper in games. And I was kind of talking about this on Bump and Stacy yesterday, is they don't have a win guy this year, where you're driving to the ballpark and you're the player, and hey, we're going to win tonight. We've got, Felix Hernandez on the hill right now. We've got, George Kirby just absolutely on fire. Logan Gilbert was supposed to be that guy. And I think that this rotation needs that. And I do think it all kind of flows from one to the other. And I think that that's one of the things that we have seen, and not having it be a complete unit. But for me, I think that is, I think I've looked at it, and I have never really, I did not have on the bingo card that I would be concerned about Logan Gilbert this year. And we just haven't seen it. And there has been the time there, and there have been extenuating circumstances. Rain delay 2 times out ago, extreme heat the time before or the time afterwards. We're seeing different things that are happening, but you have not had that sense where you are passing the baton with them at any point. You've been, okay, I hope that, early on Bryce Miller is going to be okay and good to go. He hasn't been. I hope that the number 5 that they have there, you're going to get the good number 5 and not the number 5 that might give up 6 runs. And, well, why wouldn't he? He's young and he's a number 5. I hope that you're getting vintage Luis Castillo and not the Castillo that you get every 5 starts. And I'm being hard on them, but that's the bar that they've set right now. And Logan Gilbert, you hope that you are getting back. Let's remember, going into the season, he was a top, 3, 4, 5 Cy Young candidate, and that's an important part of this.
What are the chances that changes, whether it's for Logan or for the rotation in general? What are the chances or outlook on what it could be here down for the next 2.5 months leading up to the end of the season?
I think if they're healthy, the potential is absolutely there. I think that feel a lot better about George coming off of the IL, and he's figuring some things out along the way. He is definitely different out there. The slider usage, a little bit more willingness to go a little bit out of the strike zone, to expand a little bit and pitch, rather than I'm just going to hit my target every time, and to kind of, do some things that he is capable of doing that have been a challenge for him. And I think you see a difference when you see that. I don't know what we're going to see from the number 5 spot. I don't know what we're going to see when Bryce Miller comes back. And Logan Gilbert, again, is a big question mark. And it's so confounding because the stuff, his swing and miss numbers are off the charts right now.
So what's going on there? Why is Logan look, he's coming back from injury, fine. But why haven't we seen Logan Gilbert, with capital letters?
I think the big thing is command. Like, the efficiency is pretty much gone. I think we're back to, from that standpoint, we're back to Logan Gilbert 2021, and he just wasn't quite, Have you noticed how different his delivery is from when he first came up? There's a lot more moving parts, the arm swings, like his entire body is involved. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying changes like that, can cause a lot of, issues, unintended issues. It's different. I don't necessarily like it. When you see a guy go out there and make changes and you go in the opposite direction, and I'm not throwing the injury into this, that's just something that can happen to arms, but he's been different. It's nailing the spots, the fastball command, the throwing consistent strikes. Is he throwing an off-speed pitch for a strike these days? Not really. Like, it's all about, let me get this guy to chase, let me get this guy to chase. So what are the hitters going to do, obviously, in that situation?
Smart people.
If I see spin, if I don't see a fastball, I'm going to let it go. And he's, the 4 2/3 innings, the 5 innings. That's the big thing with me, and the injury is scary. That's a scary situation for me, looking at Logan Gilbert moving forward. The Bryce Miller situation, I have no idea how that's going to work out, but the bet, whatever bet you make if you're the Mariners at the trade deadline, probably has to start with a long conversation about that rotation. Mm-hmm. They are built to be the rotation they've been the last 4 years, and they're not. And I don't think they're going to get back there. I don't think we're going to snap our fingers and Logan's going to be Logan and Castillo's going to get back Bryce Miller's going to.
Would you be looking for starting pitching at the deadline?
Yes, I would absolutely be out there looking for that. I don't want to throw Emerson Hancock, Logan Evans into that mix. I don't have anybody else that should be taking those starts. I'm trying to win here, and I have a really good opportunity to do that. And that doesn't necessarily mean they can't go out and add a hitter or two. It doesn't mean they can't go out and add a reliever, because they need all of those things. But I would start with the rotation, because I need to know what's going to take to go fill that 5 spot with a pretty good starter and get me back to where I thought I was going to be and where I'd been the last 3 or 4 years with that rotation. They're built to win that way.
Hard to imagine that that's kind of where we're at, but hearing you guys say that in unison, obviously, I'm sure is going to, make some people's ears perk up of like, hey, that hadn't really been much of a conversation. John Morosi had brought something like that up a while ago. And then, look, you watch them take on Pittsburgh and not give up a run in 3 games. I know that lineup is terrible, but I know it's a bad lineup.
I threw 3 scoreless in that series, Mike. I'm just saying.
I watched it, and then we watched them in New York, and it's like, yeah, that's not the same thing. Like trying to go to New York and do it. Is that one of the problems I've had with this team this year is trying not to overreact to whatever's just happened, because, as I said, the swings have been so wild from one direction to the other. And when they go 5-2 at home, I don't want to say this is a World Series team. And when they get swept in New York, I don't want to say they're awful. And then when they it's just too back and forth. But I'm hearing you guys say the pitching thing is a longer term thing, not just what we saw in Detroit, New York.
Longer term in terms of the season, not outside of the season. Yes, and I do think, yes, there is a chance. And one of the things with Logan very well could be he's the most routine-oriented pitcher there is. It might take him longer to get back. He may have completely lost everything that he did in the offseason, being out the time that he was. And so I hold out hope that we are going to see that, because the stuff is there. And the command, it's funny that you talk about, the delivery being different, and that's what is encouraged within this pitching staff is they're not asking you to repeat the delivery every time. They're asking you to be able to adapt and to adjust to when things are different and be athletic out there. I don't know that Logan always follows that. He's got his own routine, and it's very structured and we've heard about, the bag of tricks and everything else. And go ahead and throw in there that, longest extension. I mean, he's it's going to be harder to get that back.
A lot of moving parts.
Yes. I was going to say giraffe on roller skates.
Yeah,
but
that's nice.
Yes. So, but So I'm not totally convinced that it's not going to show up. I'm just saying that I'm approaching kind of the point where, wow, I never thought that I might be worried about that. And that's assuming that he is healthy, which
Right.
you never know with any pitcher.
Shannon Drayer, Jason Churchill here talking baseball. To the other side of it, back to the offense. It's been better. I mean, like, there's no doubt that the offense has been better than the last couple of years. Why? Why is it? Is it?
I think for me, it starts with the new player.
Right.
Randy Rosemary starts with, and he's performed, and he's been relatively consistent considering it's Major League Baseball we're talking
he had a
about.
down month in terms of power, right? Didn't hit one home run in May or whatever it was, but obviously has made up for that here.
9 home runs in the last 2 weeks. He's been Cal the last 2 weeks.
He's been better than Cal the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
It's crazy. And the on-base percentage and everything else. So, is it just that? Is it
JP
approach?
back,
Like,
JP
what
being
is it?
back, and somebody at the top of the lineup getting on base a lot. That's obviously huge. That's not something they had a year ago. They did in 2023. He was great in 23. This is a more sustainable JP Crawford, by the way. Hitting the 20 homers, not really. This is who he is. Get on base, make a lot of contact, hit line drives, the occasional homer. That's sustainable at the top of the lineup. You basically have two new players right there, two new hitters that you didn't have a year ago. That's the biggest difference. And to be honest with you, I don't think anything else matters. At the end of the day, Cal's being Cal. Nobody can predict that. You can't go into the season saying, maybe we're going to get this historic season from Cal Raleigh. It's going to be amazing. Or this is the year Julio goes off and is an MVP. You can't plan for those things. But you can plan for things like JP coming back and Randy being in the lineup every day.
The other thing that we are seeing right now is if you look at it, and I know it's one number and it's not everything, but it's a little bit of an indicator. Over the last 30 days, they've got the best WRC plus in the American League, which kind of makes you wonder, well, let's score some more runs then and not be biting our fingernails as much as we are. But one of the things that we have seen, and I was curious if we would see
Dropping 35 in Detroit probably helps that number a little bit too.
Probably. That was so fun. We've seen, and we saw this last year when Dan Wilson took over, we have seen, and it's taken a while to get there, but probably a fair amount of time with the players involved. We've seen the bench players get put back on the bench in the last month. You are not seeing as many, and it helps that Dom Canzone comes up and shows that this is, I think, the Dom Canzone hitter they thought they were getting from Arizona and not playing with a bad shoulder this year. So you're seeing far less Dylan Moore out there. You're seeing far less Dan going and, oh my gosh, lefty, we got to go with the righty hitter later. Not even later in the game, mid-game. He's kind of got his lineup right now, and the bench players are getting far fewer.
Yeah, you got Luke
and still
Raley instead of
contributing
Ravi
the way that they
Tellez,
are
which has been
supposed
nice.
to.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of those things. That's a really nice way of looking. For the most part, the players have just been, you got better players, and the ones who are out there are playing, kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is helpful. I gotta say, this has been a season of surprises. There's no doubt. I mean, Cal is the biggest surprise. What he's done, nobody could have seen it coming, I don't think. Dom Canzone might be number 2 for me. I was done. I thought Dom Canzone was just not good.
It's
and
a
I watched
remarkable
him here for the last
transformation.
month. He's been really good.
Yeah, and it's not just small sample luck. It's not just...
It's not?
No, and it's not just
Why do
natural
you say that? I mean,
organic.
it's been a month. Why do you say it's not small sample?
When a player just all of a sudden performs for a month, I never buy it unless he's doing something different.
Okay.
If he's doing the same old thing that he's always done and he just happens to run into this month, Jared Kelnick, right? I'm not buying it. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm saying I don't buy it yet. With Canzone, I buy some level of meaningful improvement here because of what he has changed at the plate. And there's been a lot of things that he's changed at the plate, but shorter to the baseball. That's a big thing when you get a tall guy, long swing. He's got good bat. He had decent bat speed coming in, better bat speed this year. So the changes he's made, just starting with those two things, dramatic difference. And we're talking about a meaningful difference on every single pitch. And now you see him sit back, wait for the ball to travel a little bit, hit that line drive to left center field. It's not about lifting the baseball, getting to his pull side, and he can do that. He's equipped to do those things now. That's why we're seeing – I want to see him face lefties. I'll be honest with you. I saw him at Tacoma, and I'm like, okay, like this is a left-hander throwing 93 with a sweeping slider, and he stayed in there and hit the ball hard a couple times. Let's see what – I don't think he's Luke Raley. I think sometimes people look at Canzone versus lefties the same way we've been looking at Luke Raley, which is fair. Raley's had some chances against lefties. Probably not going to be a guy that hits lefties. Canzone, I'm not so sure because of those changes.
And he can do the damage. I mean, he's always had the power, and now it's even more with the bat speed. His exit velocity is up a couple miles an hour right now as well. But the thing that really knocked me out, and then I went back and I looked it up, and I took a look at what he was before, and then I talked to him about it, was I think we had this idea that he was, okay, he's got crazy power, he is all or none, he strikes out a ton. He's never struck out a ton. So, I mean, what you were working with there, just physically and what he's able to do, and the fact that he does have a decent eye at the plate, and perhaps a little bit of it is he's kind of realized I don't have to do too much up there. If I do stay up the middle, and if I hit it right, it's going to go out of the park. I think that is adding up to what we're seeing, and he got off to a great start when he came up, so the confidence is there right now, and I think it's a different player. And he did say the shoulder injury, really, the AC that he was playing with last year, that had big
Well,
impact.
speaking of guys who are maybe healthier this year or something, we've gone this whole time talking about the improvements in the offense. Hard not to mention the guy who's been DHing for this team most of the year in Jorge Polanco, who last year was bad and this year is good. What this game is dumb. I gotta say, like, honestly, the more I watch baseball, the more I think
is
it's
it really
the
that
best.
surprising though?
Yes,
I mean,
it is,
and he's been good
because it's everybody.
He's been good enough, right? Like a healthy Polanco has always hit.
The Polanco I watched last year was an atrocity. He was awful.
He wasn't healthy.
But he wasn't healthy.
He never
Right.
had
But
his
the
legs
Polanco
last
we've
year.
watched this year isn't healthy.
So it
Well,
seems
he wasn't good when he was,
It seems he's
there's
certainly
that
healthier
middle
than he was a
section
year
where
ago,
he didn't
right?
do
Right.
anything and was not able to get the ball in the air. Yeah. But coming out of the gates healthy, well, it wasn't even completely healthy, but healthy enough. Yeah.
And right now he's that lineup lengthener. Like if he was a guy you went and got because you didn't have him now and you're just looking for this kind of league average sort of DH sort of bat to lengthen the lineup, bat 6 and 7, he's that guy. But you already have him, so you don't have to do that. Canzone, really interesting, piece of this trade deadline discussion too. Like what you do can affect Rayleigh or Solano or Canzone and how you use them or if you can use them. There are scenarios, and there's not a lot out there. We were talking about this at the break. There's not a lot out there to go get, but there are some scenarios where one of those guys has to go.
Yeah.
One of those guys, you can't have 5, fringy right field first base DH guys on your roster, and we'll include Polanco in this. But Canzone has made that really, really interesting. I think he's one of those guys you want to ride out and make sure what you do at the deadline includes Canzone being active on the big league roster.
Yeah, it is interesting. You have room at first, you have room at third, you have room in right, but there are guys who are performing in various ways at those positions, and Luke Rayleigh, obviously his flexibility kind of makes that chart easier. So where it sounds like, listening to you, if you could pick anybody, you want a third baseman.
100%. Absolutely. That's the easiest place. If you're telling me you get a league average bat, just league average, I know you want more than that. If you tell me league average bat, you can put him anywhere on the field and he's at least league average defensively. Third base is a spot where that is the largest improvement.
So you want Gino Suarez?
Yeah, absolutely. I know he still strikes out. That's a thing. Maybe that even goes up at T-Mobile Park when he comes over, but total vibes guy, you're not worried about any of that, can still play the position, and he's driving the baseball. Like, absolutely. That's the number one guy on the list.
I will admit that I saw him and Cal embrace yesterday on TV and was like, oh, man.
Just stuff him in your pocket,
Yeah,
Cal.
just kind of seeing that of like, man, the big smile on Gino's face. And yeah, I will admit, I've been sort of on the Josh Naylor thing, but as you talk through, what you've gotten from Canzone, do I want to bank on that for the rest of the year? Probably not. But versus the 600 OPS or whatever Ben Williamson's running out right now, maybe it is third base where you've got to spend those resources more than first.
There's going to be a competition for Suarez if he is available. What do you think it's going to take to get him?
Yeah, I don't know. You look at this has been the conversation around what that's going to take. It's like there's no other third baseman out there. How many teams need a third baseman as bad as Seattle?
Well, the Yankees think they do.
The Yankees think they do, but there's not a lot. It's not like there's 9 teams going really, really hard. So I don't think it's going to be cheap, but it is a rental. There is a limit.
Yeah.
You don't have to trade Colt Emerson and Laz Montes to get 2 months of Eugenio.
But do you trade Harry Ford for it?
It's not going to be free. I wouldn't do that. I don't think you're going to need to do that. I think you might have to give them more. It might be a little bit more of a bulk kind of thing. Give the Diamondbacks a little bit of upside. But think about what Randy Arozarena cost. Okay, Randy Arozarena, just as good a player, just as valuable of a player, even though he's a left fielder and not a great one. 2 years and 2 months of Randy Arozarena cost you Brody Hopkins, Ty Cummings, and Aiden Smith. Okay, Hopkins and Smith for me were just outside the top 10, and I think for most people, right in that range. Why is it going to take more than that or even equal to that to get Eugenio Suarez for 2 months?
Market. I mean, it's always just market, right?
It's
What's
just
available,
not. It's not going to
et
get. Teams are just going to pass then. If it's going to cost that, teams are just going to be like, all right, I guess you're just going to tender him the QO and hope you get compensation, or you're going to re-sign him because we're not giving you that. And if Seattle, I'm never a whatever it takes guy. I hate that. We talked about this the other day, Mike. The whole whatever the cost.
No,
whatever,
there's no such thing as whatever it takes. You always have to know, and
Right.
That's the misunderstood part of the 54%, right? Is always giving yourself chances to win year after year. You also got a stacked farm system, and you got a pretty good team in, you want to use the word mediocre? The American League is mediocre.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are no great teams in this league, so whatever it takes, no. But more than you might normally give, yes.
Sure.
I think I could talk myself into that. And what if it's Gino and one of their pitchers, right? I mean,
Shelby
like,
Miller out of the bullpen, somebody like that.
or,
Sure.
or like what's the other kid's name? Kelly, right? Is the other guy who's available there? So, I mean, like,
You need a starter, maybe.
right? Like, are there ways to use a chip like Harry Ford, who I just think is blocked in Seattle, to go get maybe it's Gino and solve two of your problems at once?
And Suarez is not the only potential third base ad on the market either. Like, you may not like Alec Boehm. He's probably somewhat available if Philly figures out a way to do. But Willie Castro is the other guy.
Yeah.
He's second base, shortstop in his history, fits at third, has some versatility there, switch hitter.
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa?
I wouldn't play him every day. I'm looking for a guy I can play pretty much every day. Yeah, and I think Castro fits that, and Suarez fits that. So if you can find another team with it, I'm looking around for guys who have played third base ever, right? Because I think that's the situation Seattle is in. You know, like the Yankees picked up Jazz Chisholm last year and played him at third base. I'm looking for even situations like that. There's not a lot out there going on, but Castro fits. I think Castro might be a better get than Suarez, even though everybody's like, Suarez hitting all the bombs. I really like what Castro brings to the table, and I think he really fits team apart.
It's the known factor with Gino. Like, if somebody else edges out Gino, I'm still probably going with Gino because we've seen him do it here at this park. You know who he is as a person. You know how much respect he garners in that locker room. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine there'd be a Mariners fan alive who wouldn't be happy to see Eugenio back.
No, absolutely. But you have to also take a look at what they need in the lineup right now. And it's not always the guy who hits the most home runs.
Well, and I think that's why the Naylor idea is intriguing also. And Jason, I know you said you're not as high on Naylor, but it is that sort of complete hitter element. He gets on base, he hits for average, he hits for power. He's a threat in the lineup that other teams have to deal with, and he just makes it even longer.
He does, and he's not one of those guys either that tries to go to the middle of the field in the air a lot, which doesn't work at T-Mobile Park, even later in the summer, as much as in some other places. Teoscar Hernandez would be the first person to tell you that. I'm not as high on Naylor as some others. He obviously would help this Mariners ball club. You stick him in the middle, you get left-handed power. The ball travels okay to right field in the summer. I don't think the ballpark's going to kill him. And he's not a heavy fastball guy anyway, but he's not very good at first base, and he doesn't hit left-handed pitching. So what are you actually acquiring here? He's very good against righties, though, and that's obviously the strong side of any sort of a timeshare over there. But you do still have Donovan Solano in this ball club. If you were to acquire Naylor, and sometimes Solano has to, face that lefty, so be it. That's why you acquired him in the first place.
He's been pretty good against lefties, especially recently.
And there's a lot of, fan chatter. Just go get both Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor. Why not?
I'm into that.
I'm not giving up Ryan Sloan and Colt Emerson for him.
But if it starts with Harry Ford and goes to someone else after that, I'm having that conversation.
The conversation around Harry Ford is interesting to me too, because I'm not looking to move him just because I don't need him to catch for me for the next several years. I'm telling teams we got a guy that's 22, right? Can still use a little bit of time.
I'm telling teams that, sure, but I'm also looking.
And I would absolutely. There's a role for him on this club next year.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Oh, they don't want to catch Cal as much as they do.
I'm sure.
He could actually fit in.
Drafted
in
a catcher with the number 35 pick who's 21. He's only a year young.
How long did it take Cal to get to the big leagues?
This kid's only a year younger than Harry Ford. They're almost the same age.
Cal? He's not ready.
Right. We've barely talked Julio, at least today. We've talked plenty about him this year. He has been overall better-ish. The defense has been spectacular. The base running still factors in and it affects games. The walks have been a little more plentiful, but overall, the power's been way down. We just haven't seen that moment where Julio kind of clicks, nor have we seen any level of consistency until he decided to personally destroy the Detroit Tigers this past weekend and have about as good a weekend as you're ever going to see from anybody short of the one he had a few years ago. Where are we at with Julio on July 15th, 2025?
No, you go.
Exactly.
I'm still in when he came up and performed the way he did, that surprised me. I'm not saying it was Cal Raleigh 2025 surprise level, but that surprised me. I mean, he was just so young, didn't have a ton of experience. Like, what's not to like about Julio? Watch him. I saw him in West Virginia in Class A, 18 years old, catches a routine fly ball for the third out of the inning, runs in with the biggest smile on his face because he's just like so happy to be playing for the West Virginia freaking Power, in the rain and the 46-degree weather. And it's like, what's not to like about it? And then he goes out and goes like 2 for 4 with 2 bombs. What's not to like about him? But when he came up in 22, I was surprised he performed that well. And there's always going to be this, we've heard of the sophomore slump sort of thing. And he was still pretty good in year 2, but we've seen that continue to go down. I think some of the issue here is Julio trying to find out who he is. We talk about who the Mariners are. He's trying to figure out who he is as a hitter. Is he just a masher? Is he Ronald Acuna Jr.? Is he Aaron Judge? Or is he just really a guy who's going to hit 260 with 30 bombs every year? And I think as the league starts to do different things with him, and it's really not that different, it's let's give him fewer pitches to hit in the strike zone, whether it's fastball or anything. And then along the way, and he's 24 years old, still learning how to do some things, pitch identification, judgment of the strike zone. And it drives me crazy. It's first pitch or it's 1-0, and guy throws a 2-seamer 6 inches in off the plate. You can't do anything with that, Julio. You can't do anything with that. Not that anybody else really can. What are you doing? That's the sort of thing that kind of drives me bananas. But he's still just trying to kind of figure out who he is as a hitter instead of guys are going to make mistakes because they don't know me, and I'm going to crush it. And I think that's where we've been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is spot on. And I think that's one of the things that perhaps we saw the last few days in that I think this year he was kind of enjoying, okay, I'm not striking out as much. And he had convinced himself that I'm a really aggressive hitter. Like I'm going pitch 1 or pitch 2. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't see the strikeouts was he wasn't allowing himself to get to 2 strikes. But you weren't getting the power and you weren't getting the at-bats that I think that you should be getting from him and that he's capable of in talking.
Because he wasn't getting deep enough into the count to get the right
Because he was
pitch.
an aggressive hitter, and he had convinced himself that's what I am. Everybody knows I am an aggressive hitter, and that's what I am. Therefore, I'm going to go early and swing at whatever is thrown at me. And part of that is a little bit of fear that you're going to all of a sudden start seeing the outside stuff and the breaking stuff that he was seeing before. But I think hopefully, and there have been times throughout this year and last year where you would say, hey, the underneath numbers look good, or, oh, that was a good at-bat. He's had a big string of good at-bats, and you would hope that, okay, this is it, now he goes. And we haven't seen that. We've had a couple of times where it's looked like that this year, and he hasn't. And for the first time, I was starting to think maybe we don't see second-half Julio, because second-half Julio is also a thing. But when I talked to him about what he did in Detroit after the final game there, he was asked, what it was, and he'll usually just give kind of the stock answers on that. No, just one of the last things he said was getting my pitch to hit. And I asked if that changed. Is your pitch different? And he said, yes, a little bit. And he said that the answer that he gave indicated that he knew that if he got deeper into the count, he might see a better pitch to hit. And I think that maybe that's what we're seeing right now from him a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. I've been on this tear the last year or so, on just not even whiff percentage or swings outside the zone percentage, just how many pitches total Julio swings at. And it's, fairly remarkable. You look at it over the course of his career. When he came up, it was 50%, then 53%, then last year 54%, and this year it's gone up to 55.8% in a league that swings at about 47% of pitches total. By contrast, Randy Arozarena's in the high 30s, low 40s. So, that...
Which also might be a problem, by the way.
It might be, fine. But 56% of the time, he's just swinging, whether it's in the zone or out of the zone. You bring up being aggressive early in the count. First few years of his career, first pitch swinging percentage, 39, 41, 39. This year, 49.3%. He's swinging at half of the first pitches he sees. Wade Boggs is vomiting right now at home. Well, maybe that's from all the beers he drank last night, but still. I mean, like, he's swinging at half of the first pitches? That really feels like an unsustainable number. And by the way, the league is at, on first pitch, 30%.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of first pitch breaking balls these days. You know, the last 5-10 years, that's certainly grown. Or fastball's top rail. You're getting a fastball, but it's not something you can really drive. But that's what Shannon was speaking about. If you're going to be aggressive, you're probably going to strike out less. There was a lot of that with Polanco, at least early in the year as well. I think he's still really trying to do that. The first good, decent pitch you get to hit, go for it. The thing with Julio in 2-strike counts is it's been the same idea. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 0-2. 1-2, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And hitters, when you learn about hitting from people who teach it, people who've done it, they will tell you, at least traditionally, hitters should have 8, 10, 12 different swings. There's this really aggressive jump out of my shoes kind of swing that I'm really trying to drive the ball 2-0, 3-0, 3-1 sort of thing, or there's this, I really just need to or I need to hit the ball to the other, or I need to get the ball in the air, or if I hit the ball, if I push the ball to the right side, I'm getting that guy to third base. When you get to 2 strikes, those things come into play, even for hitters like Aaron Judge or Julio Rodriguez. And we haven't seen a lot of, like a little bit of a different attack plan depending on the count, depending on the situation with Julio. I think he's trying to do that this year.
Quickly, just to go back to something you said earlier, Julio trying to figure out what kind of a player, what kind of a hitter he is. I love that. It's a great way of looking at it. We only have a minute, but for each of you, which player do you think is the best version? Like, which player of those things do you think Julio could or should be?
For me, I mean, I want to see, I think everything's in there for him, even though we haven't seen it all put together. I think that's going to be on the table for a while with him. So I want to see him maximize everything that he has. So I think he should. I think he can be a complete hitter. There's always going to be some strikeouts, but I think he can be a complete hitter. And, of course, you want to see the power from him.
Yeah, I think he's Ron Gant. You remember Ron Gant, the Braves?
Yeah.
I think that's who Julio, like the best years of Ron Gant, I think that's who Julio is. But you have to throw in better defense, playing center. And the fact that he's 24 and the power might actually get to the 40s. I mean, he's 24 years old. Like, his power prime is still coming. We're seeing Cal do that, 28 years old. What's Julio going to look like in 4 years?
It is important to remember that Julio's 4 years younger than Cal Raleigh. Cal wasn't even in the big leagues at 24. That being said, superstars generally have it pretty well figured out by 24 and are starting to put up some of the great years of their career. So I don't know what direction it goes with Julio. I'm still very optimistic. I know there are folks that are down on him. Obviously, I've been frustrated through the first half like everybody has been. That's not what I want to see from Julio. But long term, I do still remain really hopeful that great player we've seen is still in there, hopefully just more consistently than we've seen this year. All right. Well, I think I've explained the rules of the game. It's buy or sell, where I'll throw you out some ideas, and we'll see whether you're buying or selling it for the rest of the year. Cal Raleigh will get 55 home runs this year.
That's a tough number. That is a tough number. That's a really tough number.
I did. I picked the number.
Mike picked you picked 55?
Yeah.
I don't want to bet against Cal Raleigh.
I don't either. So just say buy. It's pretty easy.
I'm going to hold.
You can't hold. You have to buy. That's the fun of this thing.
Okay, well, if it's fun, yes.
Yeah, see, this is all fun, Shannon. Nobody brings you back and, ties you to these.
So is the question he gets to 55 or gets more than 55?
Yeah, 55 plus.
55 plus. I'm going to sell that. It's
That's
not half
in
the
the back
season.
row.
It's not half the season. We don't have half the
I
season.
know, you've only got
right?
2 months to go.
That is the thing that sort of jumps out to me. Everyone keeps saying, well, he's almost
Hey,
at Barry Bonds
it's
for the first half. Like, Bonds did it in 86 games. 87. Cal's at 96. Like,
dog days of August sort of thing. Not going to get pitches to hit.
Yeah.
We're already seeing that.
on the other
I
hand,
think
warm weather in August.
50 is certainly, more than legitimate, but
Yeah.
55 might be a little stretch. I would sell.
What was the
I had
Salvi
him
Perez
50
number?
in the
54?
first month.
50?
56 is the Griffey.
Is Griffey, and Salvi
I think it's
Perez is 54?
Yeah.
I think he gets past Salvi Perez. I think he gets to
Yeah.
55. I think he does it. Do you think Julio could get to 30?
Where's he at now?
15 or 16? I think he's a 16. He was at 13 going into Detroit, hit 3. So he needs to double it.
Can he? Sure.
Yeah.
Can, yes. Capable of, yes.
I think he does. Like, I think
gonna
Julio
buy that
gets
one.
on a tear. I'll definitely buy this.
Yeah. That's an easy buy, I think.
Buy or sell? The Mariners acquire 3 new players by the deadline.
Huge buy.
Have you met Jerry Dakota?
Have.
That's an easy question. They might do it, before the All-Star break is over. I mean, they don't play again until Friday. They might have 3 new players
What
on
time is
Friday,
it?
Mike. Yeah.
Well, other teams are going to need to be willing to trade those players. I don't think those other teams were ready by Friday. Those
Arizona
other teams are going to need.
I'm telling you right now, Arizona is ready to go.
Think so?
Yes. They saw what the Orioles were able to do by trading a little bit earlier, because that's what Tampa did. We're going to pay a little higher because we're doing it a little earlier and beat everybody else in the market. And that's why teams like Arizona, Washington, some other clubs are open to doing it right now.
So 3 means 2 bats and an arm, or 2 arms and a bat?
I think it's going to be easier to acquire the arms,
So 2 arms, 1 bat.
but I think they ultimately end up adding 2 position players.
Yeah. So you think there are 4 new players on this team by August 1st?
Yeah, I would go over 3.5.
Wow. Shannon, would you too? Over 3.5?
I'll go 3.
Yeah, it's hard to get 4 players at the deadline.
How many did they get last year?
3? Right?
Wasn't that hard? How hard is it to get?
I mean, he could make a last-minute deal for a reliever that he wants to take a flyer on easily.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's very possible.
How many current players on this major league roster get dealt? 0?
I would say 1. You might have to throw in somebody for something, either to clear, the path to the new player,
Okay.
or because you just simply don't have room.
So you mean like a Ben Williamson, a Luke Raley, Dom Canzone? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, Rayleigh could. I could see that. There are scenarios where Rayleigh could.
That's hard for me. The Raley one would be hard for me, and I was not particularly high on Raley, especially like beginning of last year when he first had come over. But I don't know. We talk about identity, and I don't know exactly what the Mariners' identity is, but that combination of speed and power feels, if not rare, pretty darn close to it.
How much does Rayleigh actually make an impact with his speed, though? I'm not saying it's 0. I'm not saying that. But he's not Julio.
I don't
He's
have
not,
an answer.
You know what I mean?
I can't answer that other than that his style of play sure seems to fit what the Mariners, what I think they want to be, as well as anybody else's on this team. I'm not saying he's the best player on the team, but God, that fit seems so perfect between him and this organization right
So it
now.
might depend on who they acquire. That
Yeah.
would make the difference for you.
I would be loath to take him out of this lineup, which is weird because I
Really?
was not like
That's a pretty strong word, by the way.
loath.
Loathed?
I would be
Wow.
loath to do so. It would be loathsome to me.
Yeah, I'm going over. Yeah,
All right.
I think they're getting 4 players.
Over under. Or I'm sorry, no, buy or sell. I forgot what game we're playing. Brian Wu would start the first game of the playoffs. Assuming you had your option.
No.
No?
Am I
Still Logan?
Are we predicting or are we making the
I
decision?
mean, well,
would you
you're
do?
if you're making the postseason, then I think you've had somebody really do something.
Okay. So you think it would be either Kirby or Gilbert or even Luis who would start?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, Brian Wu has no experience in that situation.
I think for me, it depends. For me, it depends on, like if we're removing the element of what if he just pitched on Friday and the game is, Monday or Tuesday,
Right.
that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
I'm removing that. Yes.
But if we're removing that,
You get to line it up.
To be honest with you, from what we know today, I think I would go with Wu. He seems like the best shot right now to give me 6 innings, to give me 6 good innings. And yeah, the inexperience is a thing, certainly a thing. Game 1 of a division series or something like that, or a wild card series. Yeah, certainly. But I mean, he's a Major League Baseball player.
The damnedest thing about this team too is like I could change my mind on this at any given moment. Like
I think that's the nature of this rotation.
and maybe that's true. Like at the beginning of the year, if you said, "Hey, George Kirby," to me was the biggest question mark in the rotation coming into the year. I've never been like,
What?
I know, I've never been like 100% all in on Kirby. That's the guy I would have traded in the offseason if I could.
More than Castillo.
Yeah, because I kind of know what I'm going to get from Castillo. But now I'm like, and then obviously he gets hurt and he comes back, not great at first. Right now he looks like the best pitcher in the rotation. So I don't know, man. Like I change my mind constantly on what I think about each of the guys.
Well, they're helping you do that.
They are, right? I mean, like, and Logan not pitching kind of up to his potential. We spent some time on that earlier, but There is also a little part of me that would be like, you know what? I'm just going to start Luis Castillo first game of the playoffs, give it to the veteran, let him do
Sometimes
his
it
thing.
depends on the matchup, too.
Yeah, that's fair. And where you're playing. Luis Castillo here versus Luis Castillo on the road. Pretty
Luis
different.
Castillo versus the Astros, or are you playing, someone else?
Right.
Because you don't want that. Right.
Seems like that is
Home
not
or
worked.
away.
Has not
just
worked
avoid
very
that.
well.
Yep.
Cal wins the MVP tonight.
I don't think they're voting on it today, so
No, of the All-Star game. No, the All-Star game MVP.
No, I mean, that's an easy. I'll sell on that.
You'll sell on that.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Odds are
Sold
against.
in the back row.
All right. Cal wins the AL MVP.
I'm a hard sell on that.
No chance.
No.
You know, his problem is he doesn't wear those pinstripes.
Sold
It just
in the
sucks.
back row.
It is part of the problem.
It's really hard to vote for
And that-
somebody who doesn't wear pinstripes.
And that's not me saying we can't get to a certain situation where he should win it.
Right.
But I don't think
But he
will.
won't win it.
I think there's a very, very tiny chance he wins.
I would agree.
Aaron Judge, by the way, is the best player in the American League.
I mean, he's really good. There's no doubt.
it's
But
incredible.
there is something to the value thing. There is something to being a catcher. There is something to the amount of other things he does. Did you guys see the Vinny Pasquantino stuff last night?
Yeah.
Dude, that was a riot.
He's awesome.
I didn't know he was that awesome. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was new to this. So Vinny Pasquantino, for those who missed it, tweeting last night during the home run derby, first says, "Oh, I'm Cal Raleigh. I hit a lot of home runs. I hit from both sides of the plate. I play the most valuable position. I have one of the coolest nicknames in sports. Screw you, man."
So great.
Dude, that is hilarious. It might be even funnier that people thought he wasn't joking. That's even funnier. But I actually like this one. Did you see the one where he says, you think Skeens knows what Ellie Cattell and Tatis are saying? He goes back to say, sometimes I go out for mound visits with Sal or Freddie, with Estevez, Zerpa, and Cruz, where they only speak Spanish and have absolutely no clue what's being said. But I give a good vamo at the end, and I feel like I contributed. Dude, he's awesome.
How about trading for that guy?
He's not having a good year, right? Isn't he struggling?
He's turned it on. He really
has
struggled
he?
the first half of the first half, but he's been a lot better.
I would take him. What's left on his deal?
You need some time. It's not
Is
going to
it?
be. This is a controllable first baseman. Yeah.
I like Vinny Pasquantino. I want that guy on the team, that's for sure. And I want him to do, if Shannon gets to do the Cal Raleigh show every Thursday, I want to do the Vinny Pasquantino show on
you go.
Tuesdays.
I want to get the two together. I think that
With
would
Logan?
be-
The three of them?
Oh boy.
And Logan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Logan's got his own version of hilarity.
Yes,
Just
he
Logan and
does.
Cal together.
Yes, he
I think it's just a very, very funny bit. All right, last year, Jorge Polanco ran a strikeout percentage of 29.2%. It currently sits at 14%. Buy or sell, he can keep it under 16% the rest of the year.
So,
Sold in the back row.
Just think it's too hard for him to stay healthy.
yeah, he's not trending in that direction either right now, I don't think.
Yeah, I think if you just said 18, I'd have bought that.
Okay.
But 2 percentage points.
18 would be pretty good, by the way.
It still would be, but what does that mean? He's at 14 now, you said?
Yeah.
And to stay under 18 in what, 70 games, 65 games, 70 games?
I mean, that would mean
Yeah.
he'd basically have to keep it under 20% for the rest of the
18,
year.
18 he can do, at 16 is rough.
The fact that he's at 14% is a really remarkable number. He's cut
Oh,
that
and
more than in half.
Swing at one of the first 2 pitches 148% of the time. That's going to happen.
I mean, that's true. That is true.
Not always good.
He's been a remarkably bizarre story. Buy or sell. Logan Gilbert goes 7 innings in a start this year.
Bye.
Yeah.
Crazy that it's like barely happened.
Yeah. It has been crazy. And part of that is the efficiency portion of it. Like he's been good, but hasn't been able to continue because he's at 98 pitches or whatever.
So he's going to do that, and then he's going to do it another time, and he's going to start game 1 of the playoffs.
That sounds good for me. I'll count me in on that. That's a buy-sell with Shannon Drayer, who's very hard to play buy-sell with because she doesn't like to
I
make
don't like to make
predictions,
predictions.
and Jason Churchill as well. These aren't real predictions. These are like ways of talking through what you think the team is all about and what some of these guys are doing. One of the ones I thought about was Cole Young, who's got a WRC plus right now of 88, meaning he's 12% below league average as an offensive player. You think he could get that up to 100 by the end of this year? He's certainly trending in that direction.
It's been very good since the first 5 to 7 games.
Yeah.
Very good. So absolutely. Yeah. I'd buy on that one.
Yeah, his progression's
is the game over,
The
by
game's
way?
over. You can't buy anymore. Yeah, there's no more money to buy.
Where was that question?
Yeah. But you like that. You think he's definitely moving in that direction. Definitely is not the right word, but that's the trend.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Cole Young. Shannon, you're in there every day, and he seems very quiet. We haven't seen a lot of like his personality. Who is Cole Young?
Kind of a dude. He not big on the interviews, but you do hear him telling stories and things like that, kind of away from the interviews. You see the interaction. I think it's really great. We've talked before about how hard it used to be to break into the big leagues as a rookie, and they're seen and not heard, and we're not too far, separated from that. And now it's incorporated. They're going to help us win. J.P. Crawford is just huge fans of both Williamson and Cole Young, and has been instrumental in bringing them along. Do you know that JP invites them to his hotel room on the road to play the Nintendo Switch?
No.
Yeah. They and I finally asked what they were doing. They were doing the bowling.
Okay.
So that's
good to know.
That's what happens on the road now.
That is awesome.
That is, the kind of, to see Williamson and Young together, it's just huge. They're a good comfortable. They're not intimidated by the situation. They feel they belong. And with Cole, there's a good amount of confidence to him. And you didn't see any panic. You didn't see him wearing it when he got off to a little bit of a slow start. One of my favorite things that I've seen all year this year is him smiling when he hit his first home run. You don't see that. Yeah. He rounds first base and has this huge smile on his face. Look what I did.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And what I enjoy in watching him right now is he's turning into Cole Young at the big league level. It's never instantaneous.
Right.
There are ups and there are downs, but of late we're starting to see him become who he is.
And Jason, you followed him on the way up. Isn't this sort of the pattern that he's had at every level of taking a little while to get adjusted and then taking off?
Yeah, a little bit. It's happening quicker. I mean, he didn't really struggle in Tacoma all that much, and he hasn't really struggled at the big leagues all that much, but it happened pretty quickly. 21, 22-year-old kids coming up and doing things like that's pretty remarkable. I'm glad you brought it up, Shannon. He is one of the most confident. He's quiet. One of the most confident players I've ever seen in the minors. Like and he walks around like he's about to go out there and hit 5 for 5 with 5 grand slams. That's what it seems like. It reminds me a little bit, like in a positive manner. It reminds me a little bit of Dustin Ackley. Dustin Ackley thought he was going to hit 1,000. He didn't.
No, he didn't.
He didn't. But that's what it reminds me.
Then it turned out Dustin Ackley's friend was better than him, and he didn't know how to handle that. Right, it seemed like it broke him in every imaginable way.
But Cole also puts in the work, and I mean that's a guy who works a ton, but supremely confident and really competitive.
I mean, it sounds like you're describing in some ways a quiet Dustin Pedroia as well. I mean, same type of thing where he's not the biggest guy, but walks around like, oh no, I'm going to own this place real soon.
We talked a little earlier about Julio still trying to learn who he is as a hitter. Cole Young knows exactly who he is as a hitter. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing he does that strays from that. I've never seen that in the minors.
It's been interesting. So just since we have you here and both you guys, we've mostly spent this time talking big league team because, that's kind of where we're at. We spent a little time in the draft and need to know. But the organization is in such a healthy spot, kind of going through these prospect lists, et cetera. Just give me maybe a blurb on where you're at with some of these guys that we get to talk about. Maybe start with Laz Montez, who seems to capture the imagination of fans as much as anybody. What are we seeing, and what's the future look like potentially for Laz Montez?
Yeah, I've been kind of low, man, on Montez, waiting for him to get to AA to answer some of the questions that he has, like end zone swing rates, swing percentage, and swing and miss rates in the zone. Those are problems. And there's probably some mechanical things that aren't necessarily great there that make the swing a little longer, makes it a little more difficult for him to get to certain pitches. But you can't make mistakes against him. I mean, that's legit 70 grade or better power. I mean, that's a guy who, if you're playing him 150 games in a season, he's getting 600 plate appearances, 30 home runs would be a disappointment for Laz Montez. Defensively, he probably gets to the big leagues as a Jorge Soler sort of outfielder. I'm not saying he's terrible. There's just not going to be a ton of range there. And he's probably a year and a half out, something like that. But there's legitimate middle of the order upside there, but it's just going to take a little time for him to get there. Michael Arroyo went to AA with him.
Yep.
Significantly more ready to handle that, and his trek to the big league is probably going to be a little quicker.
Yeah, I did a bit on that the other day, actually yesterday, saying, hey, for all the talk of Montez, Arroyo might be the best story in their minor league organization right now. He's destroying AA after getting there, and that is a big jump, right, from single A or from high A to AA.
And he's hitting for power. And he's got 20 homers, got 20-plus homers already.
Who has bigger fielding questions?
I just think from a value standpoint, I think it's Montez because he's either, 40, 45 grade right fielder or he has to go first base DH. And he hasn't played first base. So as we've learned from Ron Washington, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm not Arroyo at second. I'm not an Arroyo second baseman kind of guy. I think you could kind of force it and he can manage a little bit. I think third base or left field is probably where he fits best, and he hasn't played those positions, so we'll kind of see how that
is. That a Howie
works out.
Kendrick comp? I know I've heard that before. Is that the best comp for him, Howie Kendrick?
I think prime Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick in his prime, by the way, was a pretty good player.
Was really good.
He's not like a perennial all-star, but he's a good player.
Right. That's absolutely the comp. That's the comp I've been throwing on for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that makes sense. He's kind of built like him a little bit.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shannon, who else? Who intrigues you these days in the minor league system? Who's on your mind?
Well, I love watching the pitchers, Ryan Sloan and Senja, and it's going to be a little bit, you don't get to see them as much. It's going to be a little bit longer. They're going to be a little bit more careful with them, but I think the development of Senja is just fascinating and what they ultimately choose to do with him. And it seems like they've kind of got a direction with that right now. And then Sloan, I was a little disappointed.
Are they sticking with where they're at now, where he's throwing right-handed and occasionally flipping over during the start rather than a second bullpen appearance
well,
as
for
a
now,
lefty?
yes. I mean, he very well may be right-handed, but they're not going to
Commit to it.
And I think they'll always, as long as that option is there, and it's too soon to just say that's not going to happen. And it's, he's been eye-opening since he hit this organization. For everything that they thought they were getting, they're still just, whoa, when what they've seen with that. That said, still a lot of development to be done there. And then when you said, Sloan is the biggest risk, I was like, that's the one that kind of, for me, really captures the imagination. Just as young as he is, as big as he is, the velocity that he throws with, the arsenal that he has, and then he also seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. I'm very intrigued to see where he ends up
Maybe the
going.
player I feel like I know the least about who's up near the top of their prospect list is Johnny Farmello. And maybe because he was hurt for a while and we're starting to see him now. I think I got a sense as to who Colt Emerson is. I think I got a sense as to who Ty Pete is. I'm not sure I really understand who Johnny Farmello is. Who is he? Or what is he?
Jim Edmonds?
Well, I want that.
I think that's the
Jim
ceiling.
Edmonds is like one of my favorite players
I think that's
ever.
the ceiling. You get a guy who can hit 25 homers, he can play center field.
I love Jim Edmonds.
I'm not saying he's going to make all the diving catches.
He has to. He has to make that one catch
that's the
over and
rule.
over again. Yeah.
We'll try
if
to
you
get
want
that.
a Jim Edmonds catch, you've got to make the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Then let's get that note to
the
him
comp.
so he can start working on
Is that the best catch you've ever seen?
It's got to be up there. I saw Chuck Carr actually make one.
I don't know who that is.
Absolutely flat out SportsCenter highlight for years that he never gets credit for because he couldn't hit. And Jim Edmonds, it's an amazing,
Jim Edmonds
amazing catch.
Is I think my favorite baseball like random baseball highlight of a like non-big moment or something like that. I think it's number one. Like if I can watch anything, be like, oh yeah, I'll just watch the Jim Edmonds catch.
You just don't see anything like that. It's not like you've seen 5 people make a similar catch, and his was the best. But
it's not like he was like slow, and so like he had to make a great catch.
Yeah.
He was a really good defensive outfielder. So you think that's a comp for?
I think that's
Johnny
the ceiling
Farmello?
comp on Farmello. Yeah, I think the power is real. The swing they've been working on, but he's been able to get to everything. That's the thing. We always think about, his swing is long. He's got a hitch. Does he get to velocity? Can he cover the entire zone?
Mm-hmm.
Does he recognize when, spin? Like when hitters are doing those sorts of things, like just play off the box score a little bit for a while and just kind of watch him develop. And he's 21 years old, so he's not quite as young as the Arroyos and the Emersons and the Celestins, but it's loud tools. The power is above average to plus. The speed is above average to plus. If he sticks in center after that knee injury, I think Jim Edmonds is a good ceiling.
I mean, that would really be cool to have a Jim Edmonds along with Colt Emerson. And I mean, just the group of them. And Cole Young's not much older than those guys. I mean, he's what, 20?
He's 20. Cole Young is
Almost
21.
22,
Young,
yeah.
Yeah, almost 22. Excuse me. All right. But like you're talking about a really young group of promising players. The only problem with talking about how good a lot of these guys are is then you start to form a bond. Like, I want that guy. I want to see him for the next 10 years.
That's
and it turns
this
out
fan base has latched onto Montez
sure
like
feels
no
that
other
way.
prospect I can remember.
Yeah, and he's good, but this isn't Julio as a prospect, right? I mean, like this is a guy with a lot more risk and
at least for now, right? You see him progress, you see him answer questions, you see him face better pitching, you see him deal with things, maybe make a couple of changes along the way.
Because I got a texter on it, and it's a good question. We only have a couple minutes, but Celestine a year ago I thought would have been the first guy I would have asked you about. What's going on there?
just stay in the lineup. Just got to stay in the lineup. He and Emerson both just get dinged up. They've had injuries that have put them on the IL, but then just get dinged up. They miss a game or two. They miss 4 games here. Both guys just got to stay in the lineup.
Still have the same upside potential that everybody thought? Or
I think so. And I think with Celestin, maybe, for me anyway, maybe has taken a half step forward there. I think there's going to be more power there than I originally thought. I really just thought, I know everybody wants to dream.
He doesn't hit the ball in the air enough. There's like
right, but you learn that. Like that was a thing.
Learn power.
You learn how to generate backspin, and better pitching induces a lot more ground balls from young hitters. So you get a guy, Colt Emerson goes to Everett this year, and hugely high ground ball rate. And people are like, oh, what's going on here? It's like, what's going on with his hands, and what's going on with his trigger and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom. He starts to hit line drives and drive the ball in the air a little bit more, and the results start to show up.
Guys, this was really fun. Thank you both for coming in and hanging out today. I loved it. Just talking baseball with 2 people who I love talking baseball with anyway, and getting to do it in person for 2 hours with you guys. Just great. Shannon, thank you, as always. It's great to see you. Jason, thank you. I haven't seen you in forever.